Okay, welcome everyone. This is Total Twins discussion class, book 4, April 2022 class. This is the Sunday class, and this is week 3. So we're going to be talking about government regulation, regulatory capture, and minimum wage. Okay, so first thing, let's talk about regulations. So what are government regulations? Can anyone give me a definition? What do you think?
They're like rules or laws to stop people from doing a certain thing or business. So it's kind of like protectionism. But
Right. Rules, yeah, rules made by the government, very specifically,
or
right?
the administrative agencies. Like
Right. Yeah,
that.
yeah, the administrative agencies of the government, right? So, yeah, that regulations. Now, what do you think? Do you think regulations make businesses job easier or more difficult? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? What do you think, Serena?
Difficult.
Yeah, more difficult and more expensive, right, to comply and follow the regulations and taxes also. So now, so it definitely makes it more difficult. It's called it's called red tape, right? When a company has to comply with all the red tape, right? So it definitely doesn't make it easier. And so if it's more expensive for a company to comply with government regulation, what do you think happens to the product, like the prices of the resulting products that company is producing? What's going to happen to those prices? What do you guys think?
They're gonna go up.
They're going to go way up, right? Yeah. So inflation can be one cause of increasing in pricing, but another cause could be excessive government regulation, right? So now let me ask you this: what state in the country, or yeah, just give me an example of a state that is really heavily regulated? What do you guys think?
USA.
Okay, well, yeah, in general, the U.S., but I'm
Germany.
saying what specific state out of the 50?
Germany.
Well, no. In the U.S., let's give the U.S. for example. In the U.S., out of the 50 states, which one that we mentioned in the past actually is really heavily regulated and heavily taxed also? What do you think?
California.
California, big time, very, very heavily regulated and taxed, right? Which is why a lot of companies are leaving California, right? Same thing with New York. New York is heavily taxed and regulated, and probably most specifically Manhattan.
That's why Elon Musk left California.
Yeah, Elon Musk left California. We mentioned that, right? So in order to
Also about Twitter.
say again, oh, you bought Twitter, right? Yeah, he did. Yeah. That's been all over the news. So that's going to be interesting what's going to happen with that. But yeah, so it's really important, when we talk about these regulations, because this really affects how businesses operate, right? And so that's why this guy is interviewing an ape.
What,
He says,
an ape?
I need someone who's comfortable in the regulatory jungle, right? Because it basically is a jungle, right? It's so complex that it's really difficult to comply with everything. And here's another one. Says, don't worry, Fred, we're on top of the new regulations, right? All right, so what do you guys think about this one? See, how would you guys interpret this this cartoon? What do you think? Anybody can understand this one? What do you think?
Oh, yeah, he probably is a big idiot signing it. Very big.
All right, so so there's a book by this lawyer, and it's called Three Felonies a Day, right? And basically the gist of the book is that there are so many laws and so many regulations and so many taxes also on the books, that every single day we are breaking some kind of law, right? But does that make us criminals? What do you guys think?
No.
Yeah. So what does that mean? What do you think that means, that we're breaking laws constantly? So like what's the conclusion from all that? What do you think?
Like there might be small or dumb laws. Like there's a law where you can't wear a mask without
Right.
a mask
Right.
license. Like
Yeah,
imagine
there's
how
also
many people break that on Halloween.
Right. What were you gonna say,
there's
Aaron?
also there's a law that you can't eat chicken in the ocean.
Oh, really?
It's actually true. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many crazy laws. Some of them are
I know.
really old. So really, it's so easy, and so it's so easy for people to break the law constantly, and it's also so easy for businesses to break government regulation laws, right? But of course, that doesn't make a business a criminal or deserving of punishment, right? So that's why this guy is saying to comply with government regulations, just initial, where it says here, I'm probably a big idiot for signing this, right? so yeah, so it's different, when you say like you have a lemonade stand and you don't have the proper permits, you can say that a person's breaking the law, but that's not really the same as a person like stealing or assaulting or killing someone.
I mean, here's another law.
Yeah.
It's a weird one. You can't get drunk in a bar.
You can't get drunk in a bar?
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, a lot of crazy laws. All right, so what do you think about this one? How do you guys interpret this one?
So I'm guessing he's saying that at least you're not being strangled by mass of burdensome government regulations, and the sign says no job, no home.
So what do you think? So what does it mean?
I'm guessing it's saying that he's being taxed and being regulated so much that he can't make a lot of money.
Right. So the business owner, like we're not
I have
sure.
another one.
Yeah.
It's illegal to fall asleep in a cheese factory.
In a cheese factory?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's so many like that. So yeah, so this guy is a business guy, right? And we don't know if his business went bankrupt or is just struggling, but we do know that he looks angry and he's looking at the homeless person with no job, no home. And they're saying and he's saying how he's envious, right, of the homeless person who doesn't have to deal with all these regulations. All right, what happened, Rui? You lost connection?
Yeah, like 1,000 times. Sorry, and now I have to rejoin.
No problem.
And then I have to rejoin again, but then I decided to rejoin on the phone.
No problem.
The Wi-Fi was bad.
All right, so yeah, so that's what this is saying. All right, so let's go on to the next one. What about this? How do you guys interpret this one?
Completely government regulations. It's a homeless.
He complied with all the government laws, and now he's poor.
Yeah. Yeah, like we mentioned before, it's really expensive for a business to comply with every single government regulation, right? So either intentionally or unintentionally, many times they break the law and they don't comply because just so many laws, right? There's a quote. There's a quote by Thomas Jefferson. Who's Thomas Jefferson, by the way? Anybody know?
No.
Wasn't he a president?
Yeah, he was a president. You guys, do you know? Can you guess which number? Like what number president he was? Like the 10th or the 15th president?
Third.
Wait, who?
Third. He was
Third.
Thomas
Yes.
Jefferson was the third president.
Yes, excellent. Third. And he wrote what famous document? Can anyone tell me?
Wait, wasn't he on a $2 bill?
$2 bill. Oh, was he? Maybe. I'm not even sure actually who's on the $2 bill.
Wait, I have a $2 bill.
George
Can I check?
Washington.
Jefferson.
Didn't he write the Declaration of Independence?
Yes, excellent. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. And what is that?
The Declaration of Independence
And
says
what does it say? Like what is it? Why was it written?
I think
Declared
it.
independence with America
Business
against Britain.
That's all I know.
Yeah, declared independence of America from Britain, right? So Declaration of Independence basically stating all the complaints that the colonists had with Great Britain, and that's why they were doing the Revolutionary War, right? So yeah, so there's a famous quote of his, which is when there is when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty.
Okay, okay.
So what does that mean? Anybody can figure out that quote?
Okay, Lord.
What does that mean?
Wait a minute. I think I'm unmuted.
When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. What does that mean? Rui, what does that mean? Yeah.
Well, when people fear the government, that means that the government has control over them, and that means that the government likely has military and censors them, and they're not allowed to do a lot of things that they normally do, which is not very good. But then, if the government fears the people, then the people are able to create their own laws and have their own, like, they can open up their free market and stuff. But generally, the government doesn't really fear the people.
Right. So what does that mean? Well, what's the word tyranny mean? Anybody know what tyranny, the word tyranny means? What do you think, Rui?
Tyranny is like I know that there's this thing saying that King George III was a tyrant at that time.
Uh-huh.
So I'm guessing it was like a bad ruler, I guess, like bad ruling, something like that.
Okay. So tyranny, yeah, you could say a tyrant is like a dictator or a despot, and a tyrant usually is very strong and the government is very strong. So in general, tyranny means when the government is very powerful and large and has a lot of laws and taxes that the people have to comply with, right? So more the more laws, the more taxes, the more regulations, the closer we're getting to tyranny and authoritarianism, right? Very strong government, right? And so when the government is really strong, the people are afraid of the government. But when the government is small, right, or no government, that's the goal. Is that's when the people that's when the government fears the people, right? And that's really what needs to happen, right, for there to be freedom, right? Because the government will not give the people freedom, definitely not, right? So that's the thing. That's why it's so important that you understand that all these regulations, if you comply with every single regulation and law that the government passes, you will be poor. Also, you have no freedom too, as well. But yeah, it's pretty much impossible to comply with everything. All right, what do you guys think about this one? But by the way, it's easier maybe if you raise your hand digitally. It might be easier that way too. So what do you think about this one?
I'm guessing it's saying that it's such a big regulation that it's taking a really long time for him to download and see it.
Exactly. The guy's like, did you download all the regulations from yesterday? He's like, no, it's still downloading. So it's a big joke how much regulation there is for specific some industries are not regulated though. There's some industries that are much more free. So can anyone name me an industry that's a lot more free?
Corn.
FBI, CIA.
Uh-huh. What do you say?
Corn.
Corn is
One
regulated
is
or not?
regulated heavily.
Corn is regulated or not regulated, Marcus?
Not regulated.
No, corn is very
Corn
heavily
is regulated.
Yeah. There's a lot of subsidies. There's a lot of
The
involvement.
FBI, the CIA, the FDA, stuff like that.
Well, no, you're naming government agencies. I'm saying what industries are
Industries.
what industries are let's say not heavily regulated, are much more free. What do you think? What industries are much more free? What do you guys think? Any examples? Okay, I'll give you a hint. You can figure out if an industry is not heavily regulated. You can figure that out by thinking that there's a lot of innovation in this industry and the price is always going down, right? It's really innovating and they're making new products constantly and the price is constantly decreasing.
Apple.
So what specific industries is that
Tesla?
happening in?
Apple.
Tesla? So the car industry, the automobile industry, no, the car industry is really heavily regulated, right? So a car back in like the 80s, that was like, let's say $10,000, maybe today would be worth like $40,000 or that's the price of it, right? So cars are heavily regulated. What else? Can anyone name industry?
My cousin's newly made soap industry that's really small, and the soaps only cost like a few dollars if you buy all of them.
All right, I'm not even sure how regulated the soap industry is, but maybe. All right, I'll give you guys the answers. So the electronics industry, right? The electronics industry is very
Apple.
free.
I said Apple.
Oh, you said
I
Apple?
said Tesla.
Yeah.
Tesla is basically electronic.
No, I think Tesla falls into the automobile industry, the car industry. But yeah, electronics, Apple, Microsoft computers, smartphones, right? That is definitely much more free market. There is really no regulation there in the electronics industry. So that's a wonderful thing. So it would be nice if everything was like that, right? But it's not. So yeah, so that's why this woman is saying, here's a list, here's a book of new regulations coming in. And it says, give me a couple years and I can answer your simple question about the new regulations. Right? So it's really a joke how much regulation there exists in the economy. And here's another one. Looks like you're on top of the new regulations. Right? All right. What about this one? What does this mean to you guys?
I'm guessing EPA is some of the people that control the regulations, and the water is going to be a regulation.
Right. So Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water, and then the EPA they found wants control of their ground to regulate land hereafter. Yeah. So what is the EPA? Anybody know what that stands for?
Is it like police kind of?
No, not police. What does EPA stand for?
Child service? I don't know.
No. It stands for Environmental Protection Agency, right? So it's the agency, it's an agency of the government that they kind of like control land, use of the land, right? And they probably have their own police force and everything. But yeah, so that's why this is funny, because Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water, but the EPA said, no, we're going to regulate that water. We're going to regulate the well. So it's kind of funny. All right. All right. So yeah, here's another one. There's a moving truck backing up to our loading dock. Maybe they're delivering the government regulatory guidelines, right? So again, many regulations. Okay. So what does this mean?
I'm guessing it's saying that the government meddling in the free market can't get through, so it's making the free market much harder to get to the people that need it.
Yes. We just mentioned before that it's really expensive to comply with government regulation and taxes, right? And so the more money that a company will spend to comply, they have to recoup their costs, right? Because if a company is losing income, what's going to happen to the company?
They're gonna go bankrupt.
Yeah, of course. The company can go bankrupt. You know, they're not like the government. The government, die. Okay, well, go bankrupt. So it's not like the government, which is the government. If the government is losing money, what can they do? What can they do?
Print more money.
Print more currency, yeah, or tax people more, or borrow money. But yeah, the most businesses cannot do that, right? So most businesses, they have to have a profit, and if they don't have a profit, they will suffer and go under. Yeah, so very, very important to understand that increased prices can be due to inflation or many government regulations, right? So very unfortunate. All right, what does
That
this
thing
mean?
is impossible to solve, by the way. If it's like a puzzle, a maze, it's
Uh-huh.
actually I think there's like a circle enclosed around the house, two circles that
Uh-huh.
make that don't have any route or anything.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah,
it's actually impossible for the truck to go in.
even more difficult, right?
But what if it's in the back of the house? Since it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
really
yeah,
far.
yeah, we can't see over here though. Yeah, it's true.
I mean, yeah, there could be a very narrow hole in the back of the house that we can't see, but
Mhm.
likely there's none.
Right.
Hey,
And
but
if
isn't
there
there an
was
opening by the house? There's like an opening there, and it
yeah,
goes
but
out.
then there's an then there's an outer wall, and that outer wall is impossible to escape from.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Or maybe there's an opening here. We don't know. Maybe. All right. So let's go on to the next one. All right. So what do you guys think of this? By the way, this cartoon was made years ago, and this is what president do you think this is supposed to be? Who does that look like?
Regulation.
Well, this is supposed to be a president. What president does that look like? Do you got anybody know?
Um. I forgot his name, but I know who he is.
Obama.
Yeah, Obama.
Barack Obama. Yes, this was made when Barack Obama was president. So, all right, what do you think of it? What do you guys think about this cartoon?
So it's saying, so Obama is saying you didn't become a success on your own, somebody else did that. And I'm guessing that's something that he says.
Yeah, that is something that he said. He said that's like a quote he said, which is like, you didn't build that. You know, he's talking to entrepreneurs and
That's
business owners.
Obama.
Yeah. And then so it's saying the guy who apparently owns a business, and it's telling him, or it's saying to us that he pays taxes, big regulations, hard work, and risk, because he's doing a farmer walk, which is already extremely hard, on top of wearing shackles.
Right, right. So this guy is signifying, the business owner, the hard worker, and this would be the government on top of him, on his back, like a parasite, right? And so we have a ball and chain, which is taxes that he has to pay, right? That makes his job difficult. And then we have regulations that make his job even more difficult. And then on top of that, a business owner, they do all the hard work, right? They're the ones that put in the hard work, and they're the ones that take all the risk, right? So if a business owner fails, who's the one that suffers? Who's the one that suffers? If the business owner fails, they suffer, right?
Yeah.
It's their money, and if they succeed, then they reap the rewards. But if they fail, they suffer. So they're taking all the risks, they're doing all the hard work, and they have to comply with these taxes and regulations. And on top of all that, the government is saying you didn't become a success on your own; somebody else did that. So
Wait, but what are they taking risk for?
it's like an insult, right? It's like an insult.
Yeah. In a real situation, since that person can carry like these such heavy buckets and like can just go through with all of these like taxes and regulations, that person must be really strong. So it could just drop the buckets and punch Obama in the face in real life, or whoever that weird dude is.
Yeah, probably.
That guy has big ears.
Aaron, you're gonna say something? What did you
Yeah.
say?
What do they need to take risk for, though?
Oh, why are they taking risk? Oh, well, I mean, that's what business owners do. They put money into a business because there's no guarantee in a business that you're going to succeed, right? So they put their money into the business and they take a risk, right? So they want to make a successful business, and if they can, then that's great, but there's no guarantee in business, right? So that's the big risk that all entrepreneurs make, right? To serve the customer. Yeah, Serena, you have your hand raised?
Danila?
Yeah. Oh, Aaron, yeah, got it.
I also listen to this guy. He has like a podcast, and he's also like an entrepreneur, and he says stuff like, about like entrepreneuring. His name is John Lazonis. Do you know him?
Oh yeah, John Luzonis, Kid Trillionaire. Yeah, he's great.
He's not. Yeah, he knows he knows a lot about that stuff.
Yeah, does everybody know about Kid Trillionaire, John Luzonis?
He's a trillionaire.
Well, he wrote a book. He wrote a book when he was 12. It's called Kid Trillionaire: How a Little Kid Can Make a Big Fortune. And I bought the book, and my kids read it. And he also has a monthly newsletter where he writes like an 8 or 9 page newsletter every month, and it's really great. He's like now 16. He has a podcast now, but yeah, I highly recommend you guys look him up. John Luzonis, Kid Trillionaire. Just look up Kid Trillionaire
Hey,
book.
Danilo, have you met him before?
I have not met him. No, I have not.
You've interviewed him.
Oh yeah, I've interviewed him. Yeah, for my
That's what I meant.
for my YouTube channel. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How?
How have I interviewed him? What do you mean?
Like how'd you get to interview him?
How did I get him? I mean, I just asked him. I contacted him and I said, you know, I love your book. I love your content. I'd love to interview you. Here, I'll put the link in the chat. So that's the link to his website, kidsgetrich.com, and you can buy his book. It's like $15, and it's a really great book.
Okay.
So yeah, check it out. Definitely check it out. And tell them, if you do buy the book, you know, you can tell him that Danilo Cuellar sent you, because he knows me. He's a cool kid. I really like what his work is. So yeah. And now this one, what do you guys think about this one? What do you think about this one? Oh, Serena, you had a question?
Can you go back to the other picture?
Sure. Let's go back to the other picture. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that Barack Obama looks like a monkey because his big.
His ears are really big, right? Some people's ears are that big. My ears are pretty big too. All right, so let's go on.
Okay.
So, all right, so how do you guys interpret this one? What do you guys think?
Hey, look, can I show you something? I got like this $2 bill.
You got a $2 bill? Ah, okay. Yeah, so what's the name? Does it say the name of the guy that's on there?
This guy.
Yeah, that's not, I don't think that's Jefferson. Does it say his name right underneath him?
It is Jefferson.
It is Jefferson. Oh, okay, cool.
Does yours
All
have a star near the barcode of the $2 bill? Because mine doesn't.
Wait, you have a $2 bill too?
Yeah, but it doesn't have a star. The
right,
star is really rare, and it means like you have a special $2 bill.
right.
Here, wait, let me.
Worth $1,000.
All right. What do you guys think? So let me know. What do you guys think of this?
Here, it's right here.
What's your interpretation? Yeah, Rui, what's your interpretation of this?
Well, first, yeah. So this guy, so there's this government dude who's like pushing the poor guy to like I think it's vote harder. I don't know, but and then however he is pushed down by regulation, all of those stuff, the state, taxes, fees, inflation. I have no idea what policy.
Bureaucracy. That's just like a lot of you know, you got to deal with a lot of people. A lot of people have to get paid that work for these agencies. So bureaucracy.
And I also think that since that guy is likely going to eventually drown anyways, I think he should take a swipe at the government dude's leg and pull him down with him, so both of them drown. I don't know.
Yeah, so this basically symbolizes the common person or the business owner, right? Weighed down by all these regulations, inflation, taxes, and the state in general. And then the government says you just need to vote harder. That's your problem. So yeah, another way to show that so many people their lives are made more difficult by so many laws and regulations, right? And taxes. All right. What about this one? What do you guys think about this one?
So we the people are rules for the government. We have rules for the government?
Okay, So good question. So what do you think this paper is?
It looks like the
What is this paper?
either the amendments,
Oh, you mean the Bill of Rights?
the Bill of Rights, or
Okay. Or what?
or something. I don't know.
What do you guys think? Anybody have an idea what this paper
It's-
might be?
A dictionary.
Declaration of Independence.
Okay, so the Declaration of Independence is not really the rules for the government. Declaration is just declaring their independence and saying their complaints. But there's another thing that was written, another paper that was written after the Declaration of Independence that was basically outlining, what the government can do, all the rules that the government, the people have for the government. What is that called? Anybody know? What is that called? All right, I'll give you a hint. It starts with a C.
the Chevron Doctrine.
No, what is it? Starts with a C. C-O.
The
C-O-N.
Constitution.
Constitution. Yes, this is the
Oh.
Constitution. The Constitution is the rules that the people laid out for the government. So here's the thing. Have you guys ever heard of the saying, the government works for the people, right? The government works for the people. Everybody,
Definitely.
anybody heard that? So that's why they call them government servants. But in reality, do you think the government works for the people? Or another way,
Like,
No.
in reality, what do you
People
think?
work for the government.
Yeah, in reality, it's like who's in charge? Is the government the boss or the people the boss? In reality, it's probably the government. Why? Because the government has grown so large and so vast that is becoming very tyrannical, right? So that is the big difference, right? So people still say the government works for the people or the government serves the people, but that's not really the case anymore. Definitely not. With the way things are going, the government does not work for the people. It's the other way around. All right, so let's talk about regulatory capture. So what is regulatory capture? Anybody have an idea what regulatory capture is? What do you guys think?
Should I play that game again? That remember what we played last time? I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, the Jeopardy game.
Yeah, we played Jeopardy.
Yeah, we'll do that on week 6. This is week 3.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, we got 2 more classes to go. Everybody enjoyed that Jeopardy game?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, we'll do that the final class, review class. All right, so what do you guys
No
think?
one take my penguin.
All right, what do you guys think? Regulatory capture. Somebody give me a definition. Anybody know? What do you think? Rui or Caleb? Haven't heard from Caleb. Or Paul. What do you think? Regulatory capture?
I mean,
I don't
maybe
know.
it's just like enforcing a lot of regulations on a lot of different things, I guess,
Okay, so
and not forcing regulations on a lot of. I mean,
okay. Simple definition of regulatory capture is when the agency of the government that's supposed to be regulating a particular industry or company, it gets captured by that industry, meaning those regulators, they don't do their job anymore. Why? Because it's basically controlled by the very same industry that they're supposed to be regulating. So, for example, here we have the Food and Drug Administration, right? And they regulate food and drugs, right? Medications, pharmaceuticals, right? So they're supposed to be regulating the pharmaceutical company. But what ends up happening? The same people that work for the pharmaceutical industry, let's say Sue, she now works for later. She leaves the pharmaceutical industry and she takes a job at the FDA, regulating the pharmaceutical industry. So what do you think? Is that a conflict of interest? Yeah, it is a conflict of interest, right? And then after a while, she goes back. She goes to the pharmaceutical lobby, which is what's a lobbyist? Anybody know? What is a lobbyist? Who can give me a definition? What do you guys think? So lobbyists are people that go from the industry and they try to bribe politicians to pass regulations or taxes in their favor. and also to crush the competition. So what is that called? We talked about this concept in a previous class. What is that called? When a company uses the government to protect its own industry and crush the competition. What is that called?
Protectionism.
Protectionism. Yeah. Yeah. So and another way to call it is regulatory capture. So these companies are capturing the regulatory agencies that are supposed to be controlling them, but they don't, right? Because they are run by the very same people that used to work for the government, or sorry, for the pharmaceutical industry in this case, or the pharmaceutical lobby, right? So yeah, big conflict of interest there.
Yeah, so
Right?
they basically, so I heard that there are a lot of these different like medicines that actually had like side effects and stuff, but
Uh-huh.
then
Yeah.
I guess Tom just like decided, for his own interest not to talk about those things.
Mhm.
And Sue, I think.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, a lot of medications do have harmful effects. That's true. And but yeah, so the pharmaceutical industry, it is heavily regulated, but they also at the same time they also have captured the regulatory agencies, so it's not really effective anymore in regulating them. Okay, so what do you guys think about this one?
So it's saying banks, new regulations, sniff, because it doesn't really touch them. And then rescission on the American person.
Yeah, the recession. Yeah. So during the 2008 financial crisis, right, a bunch of big banks went bankrupt, right? And so then the government passed laws. They bailed them out, but they also passed laws, right, to regulate these banks. But did these regulations do anything? Not really, right? So the big banks were complaining about them failing, and the government needs to come and bail them out. But the new laws didn't really do anything, right? But what did happen was a recession, which is basically a downturn in the economy, basically like a depression. And people suffer. They lose their jobs, they lose their homes, things like that, inflation. And so who really suffers is the common person, right? The common worker, and also the business owner, right? So the big banks, they have a lot more connections to the state, and so they are pretty much shielded from that kind of stuff. And the new regulations do absolutely nothing, right? So going back to regulatory capture, so there's the idea of going back and forth from government to private to government to private, and that is called the revolving door. Another name is the revolving door, right? So you see, so speaker, so these are the politicians going in, and then they come out as lobbyists working for the advocating for the company, or for the unions, or for the for trying to influence the politicians. So yeah, the revolving door is this is what happens. This is called crony capitalism or corporate fascism, right? So here's another example of the revolving door, right? All these different companies going from private to public to private to public, people going in and out, and a lot of currencies being made. So can you really call this company private? If this is what's happening, can you really call this company private? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Is this the true definition of private? No. So it's not. Yeah, I see. Paul's shaking his head. No, this is not private. What is private? What does truly private mean in business sense? A private company. What does that mean?
Maybe that it is like communist, like a very bit of little communism in that company.
No, private just means no government involvement whatsoever, right? So your pizza
Isn't that
restaurant,
communism?
right? Go ahead.
Isn't that communism? It's basically.
I mean, communism is, well,
It's
communism in one sense could be really strong government power, but if you're talking about like little communities, are you talking about that?
I was talking about like small businesses, like how they don't get taxed, or they something with it's something with communism.
Oh wait, maybe you mean do you mean a co-op where it's like worker owned? No?
I
Yes.
think it's communism.
Yeah, communism usually refers, like communism and socialism usually go together. There's very strong government power, and consequently, the people have very few freedom, very little rights and freedom left, right? And people are pretty strongly controlled. Think about like North Korea, think about Cuba, think about Soviet Union, right? Or in Vietnam is also there's communism. So yeah, so that is really more, and currently what's happening in Venezuela as well. A lot of people are suffering. Yeah, Serena, you have a question?
I still feel like when like something is private, I feel like the government is so involved with it. I feel like we can never just kick out the government with anything. I don't know why.
You feel like, wait, say it again. When something is private, what did you say?
I feel like when something is private, it's not like actually private. I feel like the government still like knows stuff.
Well, yeah. I
nowadays.
mean, in this case, private doesn't really mean private. It's probably like a crony company, you can say. But when I say private, I mean like, if you guys were to start a business, or if your local pizza shop down the street, like that's a truly private company, right? They have absolutely no government involvement and no government influence, right? No lobbyists like trying to pass laws to protect their business, right? That's a truly private company, right? So that's the revolving door. And then here we see the incestuous relationship between big banks and then the government, the Federal Reserve and the Treasury. And what does this mean? The old revolving door was too slow. What does that mean? Anybody can tell me?
So I think this means that like people are switching jobs like faster and faster, and like so they're using this new technology for switching
Yeah.
jobs. That I actually think is pretty cool. I like that idea.
You like that idea? Yeah, so they
However,
say,
it's hard to find out how you could get the gravity to push someone upwards. Maybe there's like a high air pressure cannon. However, that might be expensive if there's so many of those cannons.
yeah, so these are what you call evacuated vacuum tubes that are bringing the people from one company to the government and back to the government and back to the private or company, the crony company, back to the government. So back and forth. It's happening so quickly. They're saying the old revolving door was just too slow, so we had to invent a new way to do it much quicker. So then, what do you guys think about this? Corporations own the government, right? Through lobbyists, through bribery, through paying politicians. They need to be regulated. And who's going to do the regulating? The government. Does that make sense to you guys? What do you guys think? Does that make sense? Will that be effective? No, it won't be effective. Definitely not. Will
If
not.
they own the government, how can they be regulated by the government?
Exactly. How can they be regulated by the government? It's impossible. So there's all right. So let's finish up with talking about the minimum wage. So what is the minimum wage? Can anyone tell me? What is the minimum wage?
The minimum wage is so it's the minimum someone can pay. It's like the bare, like they can only pay that much and they can't pay any less.
Yeah. So is it determined by the company or by the government?
The government.
By the government. Yeah, it's a law, right? So the government says that you cannot charge anything below this amount of money, right? So for example, here, this is kind of a funny meme showing how idiotic the whole thing is. Fight for a $50 an hour minimum wage. Okay, who here would love to make $50 an hour? Would you all like to make $50 an hour? Yes, I think everyone would love to make $50 an hour. So now think about this. If let's say the government passed this law, every business, it said, had to pay all of its workers $50 an hour. What do you think would happen to that business?
They would go bankrupt and they would close,
Yeah.
and we wouldn't have a job.
They would go bankrupt, right? So it's all it's doing is creating it's called a price floor, right? Where the price of labor, it can't be below this point. But you can't really force the businesses to pay because, yeah, like Paul said, what if they don't have the income to pay their workers that much money? Then guess what? Either they're going to lay off the workers or they're going to go bankrupt and their company is going to fail, right?
And they can't pay them more and they can't make them do more hours because then they would have to pay them more, especially if they're not making as much money as they're paying them.
Right. So it's ridiculous. So the idea of what your wage is, it's not about what, the minimum, what the minimum wage is. What determines a person's wage or how much they're paid? What do you guys think? What determines that?
Their hours or their what they sell.
Okay,
So
or the value that they're producing for the company, right? If somebody's producing more value, they're going to get paid more. If somebody's producing less value, they're going to get paid less, right? So it's all about the value that you're producing, not about the minimum wage law. That's why it says I don't understand economics exactly. So yeah, so here with minimum wage, right? Maybe some people would benefit. I got a raise, but then this guy probably is producing less value. So now he's like, my boss fired me to pay for the raise. So yeah, this guy, let's say this guy was making let's say he was getting paid $7 an hour, but he was only producing $8 an hour of value, right? And then the minimum wage went up to $10. So guess what? This guy it's not worth it for the boss to pay this guy $10 because he's only making $8 of value, right? So that's why he was fired, right? So very important to understand that. So the minimum wage doesn't help anybody. What it does is it removes the bottom rungs of the ladder, right? So the people who, okay, let me ask you guys this. What kinds of people in society does the minimum wage hurt more? What do you guys think? What kinds of people?
the public because they have to charge more
Young
for their
young
things.
people.
Yeah, the public, but more specifically, young people. Yeah. Why young people? Can anyone tell me?
Because they're new to jobs and they're sucky at jobs.
Right. Okay. Paul, what are you going to say?
I was gonna say because they don't have enough experience, they can't trust them to make a lot of money. So if they pay them more money, then it might not be worth it, especially if they don't make them as much as they're paying.
Exactly. So the young people like you guys, right, have very little experience in the job market, right? Working, pleasing customers. So what do you get by working in a job at a very low level job is you get experience. You learn how to deal with customers. You learn how to talk to people. You learn how to sell yourself, right? You learn how to be punctual, right? How to be on time. All these kinds of important skills that you need to learn. And if the minimum wage is really high, that means it's going to be even more difficult for you guys to get that experience, right? So it only hurts the young people and the less experienced, the less skilled people, right? It only hurts them, right? So again, here we have guy says with a newspaper says, hey, they just passed a new law forcing you to give me a raise. And what does he do? What does he say?
You're fired.
You're fired. Yes, he's not worth it, right? So the idea is it's not about minimum wage, it's about value. What value do you produce? All right, what does this mean to you guys? You're fired. Yes, Serena. What does this mean? Anybody can explain this cartoon? What do you think?
So jobs that generate more than $15 an hour in revenue, the economy. Jobs that generate less than $15 an hour, $7 minimum wage. How people think it's kind of hard to understand actually.
Does anybody understand this? Rui, do you understand it? What do you think?
I mean, it's
I
just
understand it.
Kind of, because people think that that if you don't make that much money, you'll still be okay and you'll still float. However, you will not. You would actually die if you don't make enough money. I mean, you don't make enough money, but you actually have to pay your workers more money than they make, and then eventually you die, and your house will die. However, if you make more than $15 per hour, then it'll be okay, possibly, or maybe not.
Yeah, so so people think when they fight for minimum wage, they say, there's this thing going on, fight for 15, right? Everyone wants $15 minimum wage. And they think if the government passes a $15 minimum wage, that means everyone's going to get $15. No, it doesn't. That's not what's going to happen. What's actually going to happen is that the people that are not producing at least $15 of income or of value to the company, they're gonna suffer, right? They're gonna go underwater, right? So that is the actual truth. What happens? So very important to understand the minimum wage, how it hurts people, right? People think it just, government can actually, people think that government can magically produce value or wealth. So the government cannot produce value or wealth. All the government can do is pass laws and more taxes. So that's all the government can do, right? So what do I mean when I say wealth? Like the government cannot produce wealth. What does that mean? What is wealth? Anybody can give me a definition of wealth?
It's like it's like rich kind of, and like
no, wealth is not money or income. What is wealth?
Good
Power.
resources.
Yeah. So basically wealth is what makes our lives better, right? So imagine if wealth is truly money, then if you're on a desert island by yourself, would you want to have a pile of gold or a pile of paper dollars? Right? Would that help you? No, right? It would not help you. That doesn't do anything, right? So what makes our lives truly great is the things that have been made, right? Clothes, shoes, houses, cars, electronics, right? Air conditioning, refrigeration. These are the things that really make our lives wonderful, right? So the government can create currency, they can print up massive amounts of currency, but they can't create wealth, right? That is wealth. So the government cannot create jobs either, cannot create wealth, it can't create jobs. So that's right. Let's raise the minimum wage, force employers to pay you more, and then they're like, what employers? All the employers are gone, right? So yeah. All right. Gold will ward off vampires in the desert. Yeah. All right. What do you guys think about this one? How do you interpret this one? Money will provide you with a tent, Rui, but not if you're by yourself, right? If you're by yourself, it doesn't make sense at all. All right. So what do you guys think?
You make a tent because you could just you can tape all the money together and you can make a tent.
Yeah.
Like a paper tent. Yeah.
That's true. All right. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think about this one? What does this mean?
It's like watching Nigerian scare stuff.
Say again?
It's $15. Look, like basically trying to scheme you for more money. Oh, your kids are crying now. You better pay $15. Where are you gonna go? True mental pain.
No. What else? Anyone else?
Here's the business thinks that since there's a minimum wage, then that means that the customers have to pay more, that their business will thrive because of the government regulation. But government regulations are not good for both the customers because the stuff are so expensive, and for the business because the people won't buy the food anymore.
Why is the company have to raise prices on their?
The company has to raise prices because now they have a new minimum wage and they have to.
Because
they make so much money,
exactly,
and they have to pay more money. For
exactly.
The customers.
Exactly, right? They got to raise prices to recover their costs, recoup their losses, right? And so of course, who suffers? The consumer, right? The consumer suffers, right? And here's a kind of funny image. Say McDonald's employees are demanding a wage of $15 an hour, and if they were paid that much, they would get paid more than emergency medical technicians. What's an emergency medical technician? Anyone know?
People who have to perform complex surgeries.
No, I think that's EMTs. That's EMTs, people who are in the ambulances, people who are trying to save your life. Can you imagine people at McDonald's making more money than people who have to actually save your life? Isn't that funny? Or paramedics, or professional dancers, occupational therapy, photographers, psychiatric technicians. Like, these are really difficult professions. And the idea of people at McDonald's being paid more is simply ridiculous, right? They do not create that much value at all. So it's kind of funny that they demanding $15 an hour, and yet they're making absolutely like not nearly as much value, right? So you can see here's another example. This guy's like $12 for a crappy little burger. He's like, look on the bright side, I'm making $15 an hour, and then this guy got laid off, right? Maybe he's not making $15 an hour of value for his for his job, right? He's not producing $15 an hour, right? So of value, so he loses his job, right? Yeah. All right. And this one, what do you think about this one?
So there's this crazy guy. So he's probably saying that now I'm going to make them pay you more if you're unemployed, which will increase your cost to hire by 40%. So that means that you have less of a chance to get a job.
Exactly, less of a chance, right? So this is Obama once again, trying to sell a snake oil of minimum wage and trying to convince people that they need that, but actually they're putting themselves into unemployment. They're pricing themselves out of the job market, right? Their laborers, they're making themselves too expensive, and so it's self-defeating, right? So again, here, what do you guys think about this one? What do you guys think about this one? We're almost done, guys. Almost done.
Didn't you already show us this?
Nope.
Showed us this last class.
Oh, did I? You sure?
Yeah. Positive. Before they raised the minimum wage, I was living a paycheck to paycheck. Now I'm living welfare to check. I promise you showed us this last time.
Oh, okay. All right. What's welfare, by the way? Anybody know?
There's this thing for homeless people because originally he had to before he was okay because he was paying his paycheck and he was working, but now he had to be paid more, but then he didn't make enough to pay more, so now he actually didn't benefit and the business didn't benefit. Now he's fired and he's homeless, and now he has to be checked off by welfare and stuff like that.
Right. Welfare is those people that are poor or they're homeless or that don't have enough money to sustain themselves. So welfare is government program to help them, but of course people get dependent on it, and it's very unfortunate. So before, the guy was earning his own living, paycheck to paycheck, but now he's living welfare check to welfare check. So that is what happens in the economy. So again, Obama passing a minimum wage law, and he cuts off the bottom rung and he says you're welcome, and the people at the bottom are suffer. They suffer. So again, what kinds of people suffer from minimum wage laws? What's the kind of people?
New people.
The consumer.
The consumer does as well, but more specifically the lower skilled workers, right? Usually younger people and lower skilled workers, right? They
can't make it they are that. I mean, they are super good at their jobs generally. So
yeah, they're not super good, so they need experience, right? They need to learn skills, right? And minimum wage laws prevents them from entering at a lower rung on the economic ladder, right? So unfortunate. All right, and here's the last one. So here's the minimum wage magic, right? Obama or the president or the government says, you know what? These guys are making $7.25. Ding, everybody. This guy makes $10 now. But of course, economics, the long hand of economics says, no, this guy is fired. Why? Because he's probably not making at least $10 an hour of value. Maybe he's making $8, maybe he's making $8.50. And so it's not worth it to keep this guy on. And so this guy loses his job, unfortunately. So people suffer with these regulations. People suffer with these ridiculous laws, right?
Because they have to make more because they also have to be paid. But then the business says that it's not worth it because they don't make enough.
Right.
And normally the business, if they don't make enough, they just lower the wage. Like,
Uh-huh.
however, now there's a minimum wage, so they can't lower the wage. So they have to fire them because,
Right.
well, because to pay them that much, it's just not worth it.
I'll give you another example of how ridiculous minimum wage is, right? So people think that all we have to do is raise the minimum wage, right? So imagine really poor countries in the world like Africa, right? Places where people are starving, right? People are, have, very little to eat and not much wealth, right? Not much technology. So if people from the West, from the United States say, you know what, all you guys need to do to improve the state of your people is raise the minimum wage. Just raise their minimum wage, right? They're not making enough. Just raise it to $50, $100. So they can make more money. Like, you guys understand how ridiculous that is, right? How that doesn't help anything, right? That doesn't create anything. It's just a law that prevents employers from paying their employees what they're worth, right? Their value. They pay them according to their value. So minimum wage doesn't help anyone. All it does is hurt the less experienced and the younger people. All right. So is there any questions about regulatory capture, or the minimum wage? Does that all make sense? What do you guys think? Yeah, makes sense, everyone? All right, good. Okay, so that's the class for today. I will see you guys again next week for another topic. I'm not sure yet what, but it will be fun. All right.
All right,
All
bye,
right, guys.
everyone.
Enjoy
Take care.
your Sunday.
Bye.
Thank
All right.
you. Bye.
Take care. Bye.